Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 39 today, for the beginning of Season 3. If you guys did miss the pre-season video uploaded yesterday, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one to get the full lowdown of how we've got to this position with multiple facilities shut down. Our team starting off the season in minus $15 million of debt as we reset and we go again following a devastating ending to Season 2. Whether we can actually contest both drivers and the Constructors' Championships this season is going to be a big factor on it if we can get out of this debt pretty quickly and attract some new sponsors to the team. Potentially, though, our brand new four-time world champion teammate could help us out, and we've got a 98 rated Sebastian Vettel, I might add, to start off this season with the kind of, pre-season training you're able to do in the activity timeline. But yeah, our car won't be getting any R&D upgrades until we can actually afford to reopen our facilities on the aero, engine, chassis, or durability. But you may be able to spot there our weekly resources actually bring in 1.3 million because our team is still pretty high acclaim levels, so that is definitely going to be a helping factor. But in a 16 race calendar where every single race is going to matter so much, as we clearly saw in Season 2, literally, if one race had gone differently, I may have won that championship on that season. So it's about trying to limit the maximum damage we can until that moment comes and we can actually upgrade this car and do some work on it. And the fact that the grid is so competitive with no R&D reset may help that factor, because I'm hoping just every team takes points off one another in these opening rounds whilst we're trying to be as consistent as possible and just trying to get the highest position we can with the car that we've got. And if you did catch the pre-season video, you'll know we've got a very interesting driver lineup for this new season. Mercedes, the reigning champions, with the reigning drivers champion now, Lewis Hamilton, alongside a very strong George Russell from Season 2. Red Bull with our old teammate Albon now, alongside Verstappen once again. They're going to be looking for revenge on the Silver Arrows and potentially just us as well, as we definitely took a lot of points away from them. But then you've got maybe the resurgence and the return to the top for McLaren for the first time in a long while, with Lando Norris alongside now Pierre Gasly breaking away from the Red Bull family. Very intrigued to see what he could do in the McLaren, because they looked a bit ominously consistent. But then you've got a very tight-knit midfield battle. The Alpine team now with Sergio Perez and Ocon. Will sparks fly there? Who knows? And then Ferrari, after a very disappointing Season 2 with Piastri and Leclerc, now his second season in Formula 1. Can Piastri improve steadily? Can Leclerc actually return to form? And can the Scuderia actually return to where they maybe should be? Because they weren't too far off in performance on Saturdays. But the other Ferrari power team on the grid, Haas now known as Repsol Haas F1, with Sainz and Schumacher in their second season as a pairing. Brand new look, potentially with improved performance and just confidence from getting a race win with Schumacher last season in Mexico. That's going to be one to watch as well. And then, of course, you've got our story. Can we get out of this debt as quickly as possible? And can we limit the damage? And what can we do with Sebastian Vettel? Will he be reinvigorated in our team? Well, I'm sure a lot of you guys watching will be hoping so, because it was great to see the awesome reaction to us finally being able to sign Sebastian Vettel. Very surprisingly, I mean, even I was caught out, because he was set to retire, and for whatever reason, he was still available to sign, and we finally managed to do it after 3 different games of failing to do so. I thought this was the third and final time that we get a chance, and we failed in Season 2, but no, we've got Sebastian Vettel, and I'm really hoping that we can see a bit of the old Seb come through. But first and foremost, we're focusing on ourselves, because on this first outlap then, with our car on Saturday, it's a big step into the unknown. You can see our car is very bare bones and Bahrain with the stripped back livery with just carbon fiber, just the number, and my logo on the engine cover. We've got a brand new emergency power unit contract signed with Renault, so it's a brand new power unit, and we know when you switch power units on this game, the drivability can change quite dramatically, especially on the entry into corners, the way the engine braking works, and also the power delivery. So that's going to be a whole new challenge and kettle of fish to deal with, let alone the fact that we can't upgrade this car. This car is going to remain at this performance until we can open up facilities. So, if you're not moving forwards in Formula 1, you are moving backwards. So that's what I'm worried about is going to happen in the next couple of episodes, potentially, if the AI are going to be upgrading rapidly as they get towards near enough maxed out cars, probably, at some point this season. In these early laps then in Q1, though, getting up to speed with the car pretty well, actually. I would say the drivability, compared to previous times we've done a power unit switch, hasn't been so drastic. I can feel that the power delivery is a little bit different to the Red Bull powertrain on the exit of corners, but the entry is pretty similar. Just trying to get to grips with the turn-in points and just kind of feeling out the circuit, as obviously we arrive at Bahrain with a car that is probably better than we've ever had at Bahrain, so that changes your brake points and also how quickly you can go through the corner. So it's about finding that confidence of going flat out at certain points when the AI have already obviously sussed that out. But it's a surprise shock, though, already in Q1. It's a howler for George Russell. I talked him up so much in the pre-season video. He was doing so well at the end of Season 2. I was touting him to maybe upset the reigning champion Hamilton, but he's been knocked out. I don't know what went on there, a bit of traffic, and he's out in Q1. The two Red Bulls get through, the two McLarens as well, just about with Lando Norris there, but that's already going to be already Mercedes on the back foot and Russell on the back foot for the first race of the season. We enter Q2 now, and just taking a moment to show you also something else that's different with this season is now we've got a slightly different tyre compound selection for every race weekend. So typically, default on F1 22, you only get one medium tyre in your race weekend selection in quali and the race. So that kind of limited strategies available to you. But now heading into Season 3, we've got a slightly tweaked compound selection, which means there are two medium tyres available to us for the whole race weekend. So one in qualifying, that actually gives you one less soft compound, so the pressure's on a little bit to try and get through into Q2 and only one lap, which we failed to do so this time because we needed 2 runs to really feel comfortable and get to grips with everything. But this will also open up potentially strategies, I'm hoping, in other races where maybe a 2-stop with 2 mediums and a soft, for example, or even 2 mediums and a hard might be a better option compared to the last season and Season 1, where a lot of the races when they were dry were very limited to a very linear 1-stop. So I'm hoping that tweak in the compounds available to not just ourselves, but also the every AI team can also open up the strategy a little bit more in Season 3 onwards here in this series. But we're now on to our first flying lap in Q2, and this is going to be an important session because unlike last season, it is not a given that we get through into the top 10 shootout. We're aiming for it, of course, but now the grid is a bit more competitive. McLaren are ahead of us in the R&D chart, as well as Ferrari by a small margin, and just because the fuel spread's so tight, it's going to be down to actually more so maybe the driver and our laps, the AI on AI battles, the difference between their focus levels and momentum they've got generally from previous sessions and whatever will make a huge difference, as I'm sure the lap time is going to be so close, so much so that here on the second flyer, we've actually gone red in the first sector, green in the second, so I was only narrowly down on my first sector, able to find some time in the second, and we come through across the line. It is an improvement, but it's not going to be enough to get through into the top 10 shootout. A surprise Q3 appearance for the Alfa Romeo team with Bottas there. Sainz through with the Haas. Both Alpines through. So I didn't mention them, but you can't count them out, of course. And now with Perez at the team, maybe renewed kind of confidence. And they've actually both smashed it into the top 10 with Hamilton, the reigning champ, through. Both McLarens, both Red Bulls, and Piastri in the Ferrari. It's a disappointing one for Leclerc. So Piastri laying down an early marker trying to become the new team leader at Ferrari. Very much kind of Leclerc v Vettel vibes from 2019 there, with a youngster trying to stamp a mark, and Leclerc continues to have a frustrating time ever since season 1. Ourselves and Vettel, I mean, I'm not, amazingly shocked of our Q2 exit there. I was hoping we could maybe just squeeze in, but it's just so fine in terms of the gaps you've got between us. In terms of Vettel's lap time, I don't know whether he only had one run or not because of that lack of that second set of soft tyres. Maybe he just had one run, but he's P15, we're P13, but we know we can maybe hopefully move forwards in the race, and that's, the kind of the need to do that to try and limit the damage and get a couple of points in this early first race of the season. Let's go to Sunday. It's going to be a big stab into the unknown, really, because I don't know how Q3 is going to shape up. So let's go to the grid and find out, and then see how this first race goes.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round 1 of this year's Formula 1 World Championship. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Alex Albon leads us away from pole position, with Pierre Gasly alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Verstappen, Norris, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Oscar Piastri, Sainz, Ocon, Perez, and Valtteri Bottas, Liam Lawson, Mick Schumacher, the owner driver, and Tsunoda, Vettel, Leclerc, George Russell, and Felipe Drugovich, Schwartzman, Magnussen, Théo Pourchaire, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. A new season then, a clean slate where anything could happen. Anthony Davidson is with me today as once again we get another year of Formula 1 underway.
We're into those tense few minutes before the first race then. Everyone's a little bit nervous about reliability. They haven't been running in the hot, turbulent wake of other cars in practice, and they've not been pushing at 100% for long durations. Let's hope no one has to deal with any nasty surprises.
So it looks like Red Bull's strategy of taking Albon back under their wing and sticking him alongside Max Verstappen has paid off, because Albon gets another pole position, with this time back in the Red Bull Honda team alongside Pierre Gasly, showing McLaren are here potentially to take the fight for the championship, maybe, if they can have that same consistency as season 2 at the end there. Pierre doing very well to get on the front row, ahead of Verstappen and then Lando Norris on the second row. Hamilton P5, big question marks that kind of leaves with where Russell would have potentially been, because we saw at the end of season 2, Hamilton wasn't driving at the same level he was in the first half, where he won 3 races in a row. So I genuinely think Hamilton has kind of lost a bit of momentum. Even despite winning the championship last season, he's not looking as quick as he was at the start of season 2. So big question mark of how much Russell can recover from this race. For us, P13, 15, as I said, we're just looking to try and break into that top 10, get a couple of points, limit the damage, get in some fights, and just try and make the best of it. It's going to be a tough old battle, though, ahead of us. We've got some new names in the form of Liam Lawson, a renewed Alpine, looking very strong, I must say, the Haas as well, and Bottas even in the Alfa Romeo. It's going to be a very tough midfield fight, and we're hoping a very close battle at the top with Red Bull v McLaren versus Mercedes and Ferrari, potentially. I guess we're going to find out, because here we go to 5 red lights. Season 3 is a go, and it's a pretty okay start for us. An even better one, though, for Yuki Tsunoda and the AlphaTauris. We go barreling down to turn 1, 3 abreast for Bottas, Schumacher and Liam Lawson. We're going to get boxed in, Tsunoda and Bottas being very opportunistic into turn 1, as well as Sebastian Vettel, who's overtaken us on the outside. We've got pinched out there by our new teammate. He's up into P14. We're down to P15. So after initially a pretty good launch, we actually just got caught up a little bit in the traffic. Vettel, we're going to follow him through on the outside as we both try and overtake Lawson in the AlphaTauri. Schumacher is 3 abreast with the Alpine and the other AlphaTauri of Tsunoda. Great battles early on. Schumacher and Vettel now side by side. Perez trying to go on the outside of Yuki Tsunoda, but the AlphaTauri, very quick start for him, and he's up into P10. Bottas maintains P9. Schumacher getting squeezed out by Vettel. Pierre Gasly, though, look at the top there on the ladder. Pierre Gasly is the one that leads the way in the McLaren, ahead of Albon, Verstappen and Piastri in P4. He's got Lewis Hamilton. But we're still focusing on this battle between Sebastian Vettel and Mick Schumacher. The two have a very good friendship in real life, a bit of a kind of father-son relationship, as it were, and Vettel trying to get the better of Schumacher in that renewed Haas, the Repsol Haas F1 team now, as Sainz is up there in P7. Schumacher had a tougher time in qualifying. We're trying to join the party, getting boxed in a little bit though, nowhere to kind of go left or right. Vettel gets squeezed out. Can we now maybe close up the back under his rear wing and see if we make it maybe 3 wide? Potentially into turn 1. We're gaining on Vettel using a load of ERS, but Vettel equally is trying to get a hurry on, and he's going to make a very late dive. Vettel, you got to say for sure, looks a bit renewed there. He's making some very ballsy last-minute moves on Schumacher, and he's actually finished off the move this time, and he's up into P12, but Schumacher may come back at him. So we're literally just watching this battle. At the moment, it's so hard to get involved and make it 3 wide or try and get both of them in one go. So we're just letting Vettel do his thing, and hopefully he can get him, and then we can just get through ourselves. But Schumacher is making it a very tough time, and this is what I mean. You can already see the time we've lost now to the car ahead of Sergio Perez, who's going slow though, and on lap 2 it's going to be tragedy for Checo in his new team, his first outing for Alpine, and it's ended in disaster as it's a engine up in smokes, and it's going to be a DNF to start his career at the Alpine Racing team. That is very, very unfortunate, as battles are going left, right and centre all the way up and down the field. Liam Lawson trying to get the better of Felipe Drogovic. Leclerc down still in P16, and Russell in P17. 2 big names there looking to try and make their way up the grid, but because the grid's so tight now, if you're back there, you actually might find it a struggle to carve your way through, because the actual R&D performance of all these midfield teams, all the way even down to Aston Martin and Williams, are so fine now, such as the scaling of the R&D chart. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on how Leclerc and Russell get on. But meanwhile, back in our race, we're now looking to get Sebastian Vettel. He's been squeezed out by Schumacher and lost a bit of pace on that last bit of that lap 4 onto 5. And now we're down the inside of Vettel to try and get through ourselves. And to be honest, we need to try and get past just to give ourselves a chance to maybe attack him, because Vettel's tried, he's failed. Can we now have a go at Schumacher and close up to that train forming ahead of him of Tsunoda and Valtteri Bottas? I feel Bottas a bit out of place in terms of where the Alfa Romeo car is on the grid, so he may be slow and back Tsunoda and Schumacher into us, and that's kind of what's happening, because you can see the gap from Bottas to the next car on the minimap. So can we now surprise Schumacher? A big lunge down the inside, and we're going to get up into P11 actually pretty nicely. Lap 6 though, he's on soft, so maybe now Schumacher's soft tyres are wearing out a bit too much, and the same could be said of Tsunoda. So maybe now is the time where we're going to be finally quicker, and Vettel can get by him as well, as we now focus on Tsunoda. But whilst we make a move on Tsunoda down the inside, I think Sebastian Vettel's also trying to make a move on Schumacher behind. Yes, he is, in the same fashion down the inside, but the difference is Schumacher, for whatever reason, putting up such a fight versus Vettel that the two are still squabbling as they go across line for a brand new lap. Vettel though with DRS this time hopefully can finally finish off this move on his fellow compatriot. Meanwhile, we see a very aggressive George Russell squabbling for position with Felipe Drogovic. So Leclerc's got past the Alfa Romeo, but his Russell's finding it a little bit hard, more of a challenge to get past, and Drogovic actually keeps him at bay, and Russell has to sit behind him in P16 for potentially another half lap at least. Can we though get past the other Alfa Romeo in this race? We've caught up to Bottas. He's on the medium, so not facing the same tyre wear that Tsunoda and Schumacher are, but equally, like I said, we should have the performance to overtake the Alfa Romeo. Bottas gives us a good squeeze though, and really puts up a good fight to the last corner, but you are going to just keep the elbows out and get up into P9. Bit of contact was made, so I just double-checked there was no damage. There is not. So we can now get our head down and concentrate on trying to bridge this 3-second gap to Ocon, who was on the tail end of that lead pack. Lap 9 onto 10. The gap is down to 2 seconds, and now behind Sebastian Vettel, looking to get past Valtteri Bottas himself. DRS open on the inside, get the elbow out on the exit, and maintain position through turns 2 and 3. Vettel up into the points for the first time now here, and can try and close up to me whilst we chase after Ocon. Albon, speaking of chasing, is chasing after Pierre Gasly up ahead in the 2-3 for Red Bull, but oh, Gasly's made a mistake! Oh, Pierre Gasly, he's gone wide and got caught up on the curb, and now he's falling down the order, he's tumbling down the order. It's a nightmare for Pierre Gasly. The Frenchman was doing so well in the lead by 3 seconds, but he's made a mistake. He's locked up and gone straight on, and it's annoyingly this thing that AI do, if when they go wide, they sometimes hold up position to let cars by, and they're a bit too polite, and that's exactly what's happened to Gasly there, because he's waited for 9 cars to go by before coming back on circuit. So he's down to P10 as we now have a look at Ocon on lap 13. It's taken about 6 laps to finally catch up to the Frenchman. Such is the pace difference and just the time we had to find. We couldn't quite get him into turn 1 though, because we took too much curb on the left-hand side and locked up. So we're going to have to try and stick with him and right under his rear wing as close as we can. And it's now second time lucky on the main straight. Ocon squeezes us to the inside, but we keep our foot in. We're not going to be scared off the throttle. And now we'll try and get the elbow out to just completely squeeze him out and book in this P6 as it stands, with Sainz and the Haas coming in for his first pit stop onto the hard tyres, I imagine. And up the road, Norris P5, 4.6 the gap. So I would say that's doable last season, but this season, maybe with the McLaren performance and the DRS strain those guys have with each other, maybe harder. We need them to start fighting and going side by side with each other to lose some time to us, basically. As you can see, there is Hamilton. He's already made his pit stop and back into the fast lane of the pit lane as we now come in with the optimal turn in and onto a set of hard tyres, and there's no mistake there for our team this time round, unlike at Abu Dhabi where it was a very slow pit stop with that front wing change, remember. And we're now out in P11 as it stands. Leclerc 31 seconds back on the hard, so he's got a very long afternoon ahead of him. And then eventually Sebastian Vettel will come in with Pierre Gasly as well. Gasly looks to have overtaken Vettel now, so Pierre, he was leading this race in the McLaren, remember. He's still probably the quickest man out there on circuit with still the purple lap time, so let's see how much he can recover. He may come at us and knock on the door eventually, but we've actually come out behind, annoyingly, Ocon. So the overcut, going 1 lap longer for Ocon, has actually helped him there. So we have to try and do all that work again to re-overtake him. But once we've hopefully got him again, that actually annoyingly may be the end of our fighting, unless this top 5 pack ahead of us, or top 6 rather, goes and races each other very, very hard, because I think the pace that they've got is just a bit too much for us. So I need them all to start fighting. But as it stands, it is a Red Bull 1-2. Albon ahead of Max Verstappen, but for how much longer? Because Albon goes wide into turn 1, and Verstappen now down the inside, calm as ever, and gets up into P1. The pressure has maybe got to Albon there in the Red Bull, and he loses first place. Is that another crack in Albon's armour, just like was the case at Singapore in Season 2 maybe? Different team, same story potentially. That's very frustrating for the Thai Brit driver. Verstappen now leads the way. Piastri a close third from Hamilton, Sainz, Norris, and then there's a gap to then this battle between ourselves and Esteban Ocon. Gasly and Vettel having a battle as we now go down the inside of the Frenchman. Good pace up the road, bit of ERS used, and catch him napping a little bit and caught unawares, and we're up into P7. But annoyingly, actually, in hindsight, maybe we should have just stuck behind him, because now Ocon's going to have the DRS on us. But I kind of almost needed to overtake him because he was slowing me up through that corner. We're pretty much pushing him through up the hill in Sector 3. But now down this straight, the Alpine's got some pretty damn good pace in the straight line with DRS open. We're going to squeeze Ocon to the inside, take the racing line, and the nice wide entry into turn 1. But Ocon has kept his foot in, and he's still ahead of us technically through the next left-hander into the right. DRS will be available to him once again, so we're giving him a real good squeeze on the right. But look at him commit to the inside, but then we brake early, cut in tight, and it's a textbook switchback to the inside to finally get him, because he loses a lot of pace going so deep and tight on the line, and so much so that he's actually got Pierre Gasly now in the mirrors in the McLaren. So I'm hoping that's maybe the last we see of Ocon in our mirrors, and he's going to be busy fighting his fellow compatriot Pierre Gasly, and maybe even Vettel, because Vettel is there in the distance, still holding on to the P10. Russell and Leclerc, by the way. Oh, Ocon's gone wide! Ocon's gone wide! He's getting flustered now, and he's just invited Gasly through. So that's an easy overtake for Gasly into P8. Ocon tried to come back at him, but no, I think the McLaren should have him, but that means Vettel's arrived on the scene, and he's right there. So I'm really hoping Vettel can now maybe have a go at him, and he needs to, because as I was saying, Russell is now up into P11, and he's there as well. He's only 1 second back from Sebastian Vettel, so Vettel needs to get Ocon, because I'm sure Russell will come knocking on the door. He's got a car quick enough, and Vettel is going to try and get a move on, and get one down the inside of Esteban into the final corner. The Alpine keeps it ahead, but Vettel surely has DRS now for a second chance to get this before the Mercedes arrives on the scene, because the Mercedes, I would say, is surely going to be overtaking both these guys. So Vettel needs to overtake Ocon just to maintain P10 in terms of the long-term way this race may shake out, but he's finding it tricky to finish off this move. You know, it happened with Schumacher earlier. It seems like he's been reinvigorated a little bit with the moves he's making, but he's finding it hard to finish off the overtakes, as now there's a yellow flag, and it's for Liam Lawson, who is actually retired from this GP. You can see in the distance there. So it's a heartbreak for the rookie, as we now focus back to the fight at the front, and Verstappen leads the way, but now he locks up in the same way Albon did. Albon nearly makes contact with him, and Piastri goes round the outside of both of them. The safety car's out, I think, for some contact that Albon and Verstappen potentially made, and some carbon fibre out on circuit. So Piastri, all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, leads this race now because of the two Red Bulls tripping over one another, with Verstappen going nearly completely wide with a lock-up at turn 1. So the Ferrari leads from the two Red Bulls. Hamilton P4, Sainz, Lando Norris, we're now P7, and of course we've all bunched up. So now we've got a chance maybe to get even further and really make the most of this first race. We go green. Can we maybe do anything to surprise the McLaren ahead of us? Norris goes defensive to the inside. We go to the outside, but Sainz is blocking us, and he locks up, and Gasly shoots through down the inside with a kamikaze dive bomb, and we get pinched into turn 2. Vettel has got us round the outside, and now Sainz is floundering. What on earth has happened to the Spaniard? He held us up, and now he's lost 2-3 positions if Vettel can get the move done, as we're having a real issue hitting up these hard tyres. I thought I did enough weaving about as we now shoot one down the inside. I don't know what's happened to Sainz. I think he surely must have a mechanical issue. And what's happened to Hamilton? Oh, Hamilton's slow as well. He's down to P6. It's all kicking off here on this safety car restart. Whether it's tyre warm-up or car issues, I don't know, as we now see Sainz trying to defend and shove Ocon off the road to try and maintain P9, but the Haas is having major issues in what was meant to be a promising start to the season for the team. All of a sudden, they're in real trouble of scoring no points if Sainz slips down the order. And Hamilton, what's happened to him? He's down to P6, and all of a sudden Gasly went from, what was it, P8 to P5 in the span of 2/3 of a lap. So what a restart for Pierre Gasly. And Piastri had a great restart in another sense, because he was nowhere near any action, because he absolutely bolted the youngster in the Ferrari. He's got 1.5 seconds on Albon and Verstappen. As we now focus back on Gasly, who's peeling into the pits. He must have got damage on the restart. What a shame for him after he did so well to climb up the positions. And now Sebastian Vettel is having a go at Lewis Hamilton. Vettel v Hamilton, reigniting a bit of their old spark from 2017 and 2018. Vettel had a look around the outside, just couldn't quite do it, as Lewis is able to defend his P5. But great to see Vettel have a go after getting us, and to be honest, he's actually had us on this entire restart. I just can't light up these tyres and catch up to him. Meanwhile, Russell sending one down the inside of the Williams to try and get up into P13 it'll be, and he actually gets down to P4. I don't know what went on with Russell. Looks like he's on medium, so he actually pits. He must have pit under the safety car, Russell, so a very bold move for the Brit, and it may just pay off actually for some last positions, because lap 25 then on to 26, 4 laps to go. He's overtaken the Williams, and now he's looking to make a double pass on Bottas and Sainz, who is clearly struggling with some sort of issue, either his tyres or the car itself. And Russell has effectively just made 3 overtakes in the span of 1 corner and a straight to get up into P11, and he's on fresh mediums to chase after Leclerc in P10. So for a second there I was kind of confused and kind of questioning his pit stop under the safety car for another set of medium tyres, but this is what I mean, you know, that second set of mediums that is now available to every AI team and ourselves, that could change the way AI and all of us race this season and beyond. Because if that second set of mediums wasn't available, I don't actually think Russell would have bothered pitting under the safety car for a fresh set of tyres there. So that's changing already in race 1 of season 3. Is now lap 28. Ocon's got a huge tank slapper out on the curb, not for the first time in this race, and he's now made contact with Mick Schumacher, who tried to overtake him. He's still going to try and get the move done, but now the German has damage on his front wing, so it's all kicking off left, right and centre. The rate of attrition on these front wings is very, very high, as I think the Haas has damaged the Alpine potentially as well, and now that's going to invite Leclerc and Russell to maybe fight for as high as P8. So all of a sudden Russell's going to look like a genius, because he's going to try and get Leclerc, I would say, on this next straight, and he's going to maybe have 2 free positions of Schumacher and Ocon pretty soon. Let's see as they line up, and is Ocon going to peel in? No, Schumacher does, so at least 1 free position for Russell, so Ocon may actually be lucky and still be able to limp home on this last lap of the GP. But there goes George Russell up into P9 on the fresh medium tyres. Oh, lock up though, and Leclerc gets back through, but he's got damage. The Ferrari has front wing damage, but he's actually got back ahead. So I spoke too soon. Russell did so well up until the last moment, then locked up and went straight on and actually made contact with the man from Monaco, who's now back up into P9. And Ocon's probably thanking his lucky stars, because he's got a lot of breathing room to now just settle down for P8 to the end of this race, because there's only half a lap to go. And speaking of half a lap to go, we've only got half a lap to try and get back past our teammate Sebastian Vettel. He jumped us on the restart, absolutely embarrassed us on the restart. We just couldn't light up our rear tyres. He had to go Lewis Hamilton also previously, but you can see the overwhelming pace difference now between our car and Mercedes is meant we're 3.5 seconds back, and this is all we've got to fight for now, is track position and kind of bragging rights into team P6 to P7. Overall, as a team, it's going to be a great finish, a solid load of points here, way more than I would have hoped for at the start of this Grand Prix. It's going to be Oscar Piastri, though, that's going to win, quite shockingly, this first race of Season 3 for Ferrari, and we just can't quite do it on Sebastian Vettel. We just didn't have enough pace on that last lap to get him, and we're going to end up in P7, and Vettel is going to beat us in our first race together as teammates. But it's a solid effort from both of us, a really good race of damage limitation.
That's it then for another spectacular Grand Prix here in Bahrain, and a real champion's drive to take the win. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari, do it again.
Well, this is not the driver I expected to be on the top step of the podium after how qualifying went in the early part of that race, but here you go, a new race winner in Formula 1, Oscar Piastri, in his second season only, first race of the year with Ferrari, second year of Ferrari. He wins the Bahrain GP ahead of both Red Bulls. Albon ahead of Verstappen as well from that safety car restart. They just never looked back, those two. Albon got back ahead of Verstappen. Piastri got ahead of both of them. them. And then, to be fair, he actually deserved the win from the way he restarted that race, because he just bolted 1.5 seconds and then was able to control the gap to Albon behind. But it's a very strong start for the two Red Bull pairings as a team, because you've only got one McLaren up there, one Mercedes up there, one Ferrari up there. So Red Bull overall should be pretty happy actually with how they started this season off. And at the end of that race, we didn't see it really, but there was also some madness happening behind, because Kevin Magnussen ended up getting some points, and Leclerc must have fallen away with the damage he had, and Russell actually finished ahead of him. So a bit of a craziness on the last lap with the midfield battle, and so it means Red Bull lead the way, leaving this one from Ferrari to Mercedes. We are in P4 ahead of McLaren. If you told me that at the start of the race, I would have thought you're absolutely gone mad. So I will take that. That is a really good first race in the circumstances we're in. And if that race was early signs of the battles we're going to get this season, we should be on for an absolute classic with a lot of different teams and drivers maybe involved, fighting for those top spots and every single point really. Guys, if you have enjoyed this first round of Season 3, hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. Season 3 has kicked off. We've got still about 10.5 million in debt to try and clear, but we'll try as quick as we can to then start upgrading this car and take the fight to the top.